Cineverb.
Hello, welcome to Cineverb, a podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria, and today I'm joined by David.
Hello.
And Helen Albee Cottingham.
Hello.
And this week we are discussing the 1977 film Eraserhead, written and directed by David Lynch and starring Jack Nance. And here's a quick synopsis. Henry Spencer tries to survive his industrial environment, his angry girlfriend, and the unbearable screams of his newly born mutant child. As always, we will begin with a spoiler-free review, and then after our ratings, we will dive into a full spoiler discussion. Okay, so I guess I don't really know where to start, so I'm going to let you start, David, because this is one of your selections, and I'm curious what your history with this film is, and then how this rewatch treated you.
Well, I think this was the first David Lynch movie that I saw, and
nice.
Probably one of the earliest movies where I was paying attention to movies, like we talked about before, our awakenings. And I distinctly remember watching it on my laptop, like in a lazy boy, like recliner, like laid back in my parents' house in high school on, I guess, an afternoon where no one else was there. And I just watched the entire thing and like didn't move the entire time. I was just captivated by this movie. And I remember having it was a very impactful first viewing, even though it was on a tiny laptop screen. And after that, I guess I don't even remember if I watched any other David Lynch movies after that for a while. And then freshman year of college is when I got into Twin Peaks, and that's when I became a full Lynch head. And it was probably after that I watched all of his movies. And yeah, I realized that I don't think I've seen the entire movie from start to finish since I first watched it until 2 days ago. And it was great. It was a great rewatch. I noticed so many, as you could probably tell from my insane amount of notes in the document. I really enjoyed it. There were so many details that I noticed this time that I've never noticed before in just watching parts of it, or my first viewing, where I was just a film infant. But yeah, it was great. It was just as impactful as the first viewing for me.
Fantastic, man. I'm happy to hear that. So I guess, Helen, what were your initial impressions? Because I think this was the first watch for you, right?
Yeah, this was the first time I've seen this. But I wanted to ask you, David, was this the first aggressively weird movie you had ever seen as a teenager?
Maybe.
Is that part of why it hit you so hard?
Maybe. Yeah, probably. It probably would. I don't think I could think of a weirder one that I'd watched previously to this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was probably the first art house kind of film that I watched.
Yeah, that very avant-garde, like what even is happening. Yeah, I can see how that would be so mind-blowing. I'm trying to think what my first like that would have been. I mean, but yeah, because I watched it this time and I'm very familiar with Lynch, I've seen a lot of these kinds of indie, studenty, pushing every boundary kind of films. So I was like rolling with it right away. I was, oh yeah, that's a Lynch thing. That's reasonable. Yeah, that's a normal commute, walking around giant piles of dirt in the middle of the street. Like, what, your commute's not like that? Like, yeah, like, and I mean, and I've seen the movie American Astronaut, which is
never seen
like this but worse, but it's a musical. It's like this but a musical. So I was like relieved that it was less weird than American Astronaut. I was like, okay, this is a straightforward story. I was bracing for it to have like zero dialogue at all, and for it to just be like episode 8 of Twin Peaks, you know, the one where Nine Inch Nails does this whole episode. I was like ready for it to be that. Yeah. And I was relieved that there was some dialogue and some plot. Yeah, I had a great time though. I had an absolutely wonderful time watching it. I watched it with my brother and my mom, and like my mom and I were kind of riffing on like, oh yeah, new parenthood lol the whole time. It was really, really like a weirdly sweet, warm, like mother-daughter bonding experience, which I
Mom
guess you have to have
connection
a,
there.
yeah, I guess you have to have a really strange and interesting mother for that to be a bonding experience to watch Eraserhead with her, but that is how that went. Yeah, I had a great time. I was like, yep, this is my guy. This is Lynch. This is exactly like him. I was expecting all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a homecoming because I've been pretty obsessed with Twin Peaks for a while as well. So, yeah.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, so I guess I had the bad viewing of the group
Yeah.
here.
I figured you would. I was also thinking the whole movie, Anthony's gonna hate this. Anthony is gonna hate this.
I prepared myself. Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not a hate. Well, I hated the experience watching it.
And you hated it.
No, oh no. Well, okay. So, just like Videodrome, I started this at like 9 p.m. and within 30 minutes, I was just passed out, and then awakening to weird baby crying, and just weird, disgusting stuff that we'll get into in the spoilers. And yeah, so I had to rewatch it this morning, and I rewatched it, understood everything, listened to a bunch of pods discussing it, talking about it. And again, I think it is a film of like spectacular ideas, and where like Videodrome is all verbal, philosophical ideas. I do love how Lynch is this weird, abstract painter, and it feels all emotional based, but it's also abstract that it's like hard to pinpoint what it could be. And I like, even listening to a bunch of podcasts, like everyone had different interpretations of like literally every scene. And even the scenes I enjoyed, I was like, when I watched it, I was thinking a thing, and then just at work, I was like, oh no, it's actually about this. And it's really interesting how Lynch, because this is my first Lynch experience, so like I finally understand the term Lynchian, which like fun fact, him, Kubrick, and Tarantino are like were the first three filmmakers to have like a word after them to describe something.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
that makes
Oxford
sense.
Dictionary, so they were like the groundbreakers.
Cool.
Yeah. And so yeah, so I finally get what that term means, like something that's Lynchian, and it's like this weird suburban, not horror, but like just weird dread, and like, I don't know, he finds like the disgusting and like the mundane in like a weird way, and I loved all those aspects. But I mean, probably as y'all know, it was lacking like so much narrative for me. Like there was a story, and there is like a through line, but I do feel like I wanted just like a little more of an explanation of things, or also just like an emotional arc of some sort, because it felt, like I said earlier, just it felt like a collage of abstract paintings, which I loved because the visuals are beyond reason. And again, we'll get into that probably more into the spoilers, but so with all that being said, I mean, I had a horrible time watching it, but upon reflection and then like analyzing it, it is a pretty fascinating work.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it does have. Yeah, I don't know. Rewatching it again, maybe it's just because I'm so steeped in him. I'm like, this is actually one of his more straightforward movies. I don't know how to describe it, but
Oh, no.
like the metaphor is like very A to B. Like it's not like Twin Peaks compared to this.
God.
Twin Peaks compared to this is just like a labyrinth of symbols,
But
that
it's
that
all
no one
emotion.
has
But no,
really figured
but
out.
Twin Peaks is just a pile of emotional arcs, though.
Oh, I'm not
Every
saying without
character gets
emotion.
their due. Like, I think that it's
Yeah.
more cohesive in that way because every character has a journey and a beginning and a middle and an end. Where this, Anthony's kind of right. This guy didn't really change. He didn't really, nothing really happened. He didn't really have a trajectory. He just had a sleepless night or something.
Yeah. It's about a period of someone's life. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. It's not about, I mean, the narrative is just like, this is a representation of this man's fatherhood, or I don't know. Yeah, mostly that. Like a dreamlike representation of what it is. I mean, not just, I don't know.
Just to be like, yeah.
It's not, I don't know how to describe it, but it's not just about like, oh, he's mad because he's a dad now. It's, I don't know, it's more than that.
No,
I feel like, but
he was having issues before. He had bad insomnia, I think, before, like, or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's about life, man. No, I'm trying to like say it.
It's about
say
family.
It without.
It's about family.
I'm
right?
trying to say it, without being super cliche. But I feel like
call
it
Vin
is
Diesel.
about the dread of life. It's just like the dread of becoming an adult, and you get to that point, and like you're out in the world, and the world is ugly.
Yeah.
And the world is cruel, and like not and your dreams are dying. That's what it's about.
What I want to say about this, and I was debating whether to save this for the spoiler or this section, but what I love about David Lynch is he perfectly captures the freeze response, the trauma response of freezing, which I experience. I'm a freezer for sure. When something really scary or stressful, or when my anxiety is peaking, like everything looks alien and broken. Normal human interactions are terrifying, and they don't sound like the way people should be speaking, and everything is hard, and just getting up in the night and walking across the room, like everything looks ugly and threatening. Like it's very much like a traumatized mind incarnate all of Lynch's stuff. And then anxious, like a deep anxiety that I relate to so strongly, where it's like, I've lived this moment where I am just like struggling to cough out, like choke out the words for this person that's looking at me really intently and waiting for me to say something back. And like, it does feel like there is a stick in a pile of dirt on the bedside table and nothing makes sense, and I can't find the words to say, and everything is ugly. And it's that exact feeling. And that's, I think, why I love Lynch so much, is he captures that so articulately visually. That fear and anxiety and stuckness, that just frozen, unable to process stuckness that I feel when I'm anxious.
Yeah. And it's definitely social anxiety, like for sure. Like the wonderful dinner scene in this movie is just perfect representation of awkwardness.
Isn't that what it's like to meet a significant other's parents always? Like that's
a wonderful like distillation of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this movie. It's very like everything is just boiled down to just what it needs to be. It's very minimalist. The black and white helps. Like this movie doesn't need color at all. Yeah. Like it just makes sense. Yeah. And on it, like it doesn't need very many characters or set. It's very claustrophobic in its settings and all that. Like it all makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. It feels. I tried watching a couple of older films, like my mind's gonna go blank now. Blood of a Poet is one that I tried to watch. Like these old like 1930s avant-garde films that people often say inspired David Lynch. Like Jean Cocteau, that the director, his films and stuff like that. But I don't know. I've tried to watch a few of those, and they're just so random in their imagery. Like their imagery is completely random and purposeless. It's just usually it has some political meaning, or like they're just trying to disturb the audience. Like, oh, look, it's a bunch of priests that are looking silly, or it's a scandal, in the 1930s. But I like Lynch that it's like very personal and universal. I feel like this movie, because it's not political. It's not like, I don't know. It's not about anything specific. It's very universal. So I don't think this movie is going to age very badly, because I think you could just watch it in 50 years and I don't know. That's why I like Lynch as far as like the surrealists go, because his stuff is so personal and I would say emotional. Whereas like other surreal stuff that you watch, like surrealist films, and they're just so random and just disconnected and not.
It feels like it's just shock value. Yeah.
Yes, it's mostly just for shock value or whatever. Or if you try to watch, like you were mentioning, like student films trying to imitate this kind of style, it's that like it's not personal. It's not. So it doesn't feel real. It just feels like they're just trying to shock you with their imagery or whatever.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you're saying. Like his abstractness is anchored to, I guess, it has to be emotion because I was feeling things from every shot. And I guess just to dig into the technical stuff before we spoil this thing, but like the visuals and the sets and the props and the production design of everything is like beyond belief. I mean, the child that we see, that we can save talking about in detail until the spoilers, because I had no idea what that thing was going to look like. And it blew me away. And like, where in other films, I feel like they're always like very far back when they have like some sort of prop or creature design. In this movie, just like as it progressed, he just kept getting closer and tighter and tighter and tighter onto this child. And I was like, God, he is so like brave and confident of his abilities of making and designing whatever's in his mind. And like, I noticed that with like every image is literally like a painting. Like I was like watching it and like pausing it just on certain scenes. And I was like, dude, this is literally a painting. Like, look how he's casting shadows, or like, look at the faint movement. And then it's just nonstop the whole film. So that stuff I super appreciated. I think out of all the abstract directors that I'll watch from here on out, I think he's going to be the one that fits and suits me the best. Just because, like you're saying, like everything does fit and make sense. There is no shock value, even though there are things that are extremely shocking. It all resonates back to the core idea of this parent and his struggles. But yeah, did y'all have any technical stuff y'all wanted to point out before the spoilers?
No, I mean, I agree with you that every frame of painting thing, it absolutely looked like you could pause it and frame, like print it out and frame pretty much any moment. It was beautiful to look at. And it's amazing that this was his first feature and it was that beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just knowing the, like, production behind it, that it was a very small crew and he basically did it almost everything. Like it was him and like four other people that made this movie.
Holy shit.
So it's pretty crazy, and it took 5 years to make. Like he started out making it. Yeah, imagine like working on this thing for 5 years. He started out like he had some money. He worked on it for 3 years and then ran out of money, and then had to ask some other people for money and like beg people, like family, friends, and friends of friends and whatever, for money, and finally got enough to finish it. But it was like, almost 2 years later, but the actor was still, everyone was still on board for making it. And I think I read that he slept in the room, the bedroom, the set. Like he actually slept in that room for like a year, as he was making the movie, just because that's where he lived. It was on the campus of the American Film Institute's campus. And he was just like using random places around their campus, or like places that they happened to own that he could get permission to film on. But yet with all those limitations, it's like all the settings that he chooses and all the shots, they're all very coherent and keeps you in the world. Like you never feel like it's cheap or limited. I don't know. So the story behind it is pretty cool.
So was there any other like technical aspect that you wanted to point out, David?
The soundtrack is something that people talk about.
Oh my God!
And how it's constant, because it's just and I didn't really think about it before, but after reading what other people were talking about it, it is just keeps you in the world for the entire time. Yeah. I think it's probably what kept me like locked in for that first viewing, was the constant multi-layered drone of industrial noises that it just keeps you locked in to the story,
Yeah.
the whole ride. You feel like you're stuck on a ride, and it's like there's no break from it really until it ends.
Yeah, I'm curious if it was like as soon as the film started and then it just never let go, because that is what it felt like. Like it felt like one extended soundscape that just progressively grew and grew until like the finale. But yeah, so David, what would you rate this out of 10?
Oh, it's still a 10 out of 10 for me. It's
Nice.
because it's like it's the most condensed David Lynch movie or creation, so it's like a great starting point. It's very influential in films just in general. I was reading about all the directors that, like, we're going to watch The Shining later this year, and I read that Kubrick made all the actors and crew watch this movie in preparation for The Shining in order to get them in the mood, in the zone. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Like lots of other directors call this their favorite movie. Like John Waters is a famous underground director that called this his favorite film. Stanley Kubrick, Mel Brooks, even George Lucas. I think this was part of the he saw this and it was part of the reason why David Lynch almost directed Return of the Jedi, but he turned it down. Yeah, and then H.R. Geiger. I don't know if you know that artist, like surrealist artist that is the Alien.
He did Alien. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, like he called this one of the greatest films he'd ever seen, and he said it influenced his vision and his art. So I don't know, just lots of cool connections in film. That I feel like this movie it's a big little like node in the story of film that it's important to see. So that's what throws it over a 10 out of 10 for me.
Fantastic. Yeah. And Helen, what would you rate it out of 10?
8. I'm going to say 8 out of 10.
That's fair.
Yeah, because it still does have some sort of awkward, clunky, studenty film aspects to it. Mm-hmm. Even though it is groundbreaking and it is astonishing and beautiful, it isn't like a fun sit down Saturday night watch a movie kind of movie. And I don't know, I'm glad I've seen it. I don't know when I'll watch it again. I definitely loved it. I definitely had a great time, but I don't know if it's like one of my favorites. I would like to see some more Lynch films, and and it doesn't even come close to Twin Peaks. But how could it? Twin Peaks is a whole show. But yeah, I guess the characters were a little bit hollow in this compared to, I think, what Lynch does later is, I've seen Fire Walk with Me, and even the characters that weren't in the show that are in that movie, or the changes he made, were still like very alive and tactile in a way that I think these people were kind of arm's length and more concepts than people. So that's, I think, what knocked it down to an 8 for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I agree with a lot of your points, Helen. I think I'm going to be a 7 out of 10. Is because I think it's a good movie, but it is so abstract. I would give people like a warning, like, all right, how do you do with very slow movies with like no dialogue really? And that was something, I don't know if it was just how I watched it or something, but the dialogue was so low that I had to watch it with subtitles the whole time. And but it was still great because there was barely any talking.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think 7 out of 10. It's a good movie.
Yeah, definitely my bias, because anything dream related, that's why I love David Lynch, is that he's able to translate that into movies. I just think that's so cool. And if I were a filmmaker, I would want to make a movie like this. That is just this is the type of movie that I would absolutely be aiming to make. It's just so cool. I don't know. So that's my bias. That definitely.
Yeah, I was thinking about your dream nightmare-esque, like the way you write is very. I can either it's influenced by this, or y'all just have the same like creative subconscious
connected to this. Yep.
Yeah, because I was feeling that while I was watching. I was like, this is why David likes these kinds of movies. Like, this is the peak of it, because it just felt like a nightmare the whole time. Oh, one last thing before spoilers is God, what's his name? Jack Nance, the protagonist of the film. He does a fantastic job. Like, I really enjoyed his...
I love him so much. I was so happy to see him because he's a character in Twin Peaks. And I was like, there he is. Look at him. He's so cute and young. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I was just eating it up every single time he was on the screen.
It's iconic. The face and the hair. Yeah, his look.
Yes.
An iconic character.
And his performance in his face is like spectacular. Like, it somehow fits this weird subversion of reality, and I was loving it. But anyways, that will conclude our review portion of Eraserhead. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now, and while you do that, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at cineverm@yahoo.com, and then you can check out our snazzy website, cineverm.com, where we have written reviews. And speaking of reviews, you can check out my personal YouTube channel, A Lonely Critic, where I do solo reviews. And lastly, check out the Movies for Decades podcast, where Helen and her brothers Colin and John discuss films through the decades. Okay, but now let's get into spoilers. I guess, where do y'all want to start? I assume...
Well, we could jump right into the dream aspect, because I too was like, yep, this is why David likes this movie. And that's sort of what I'm struggling with, is like, is this more of a movie about parenthood or fatherhood, or like the anxiety that men feel specifically when they're confronted with maybe being a dad? Like, or is it more just about a sleepless night and insomnia and not being able to tell dreams from reality and like wafting in and out of a sleep and awake? And is it just more of a filmed nightmare? Like, how much of this movie is reality? And is that what it's really about? Was it kind of wrong of me to think and to have it presented to me as a parenthood movie when really it's just a dreamscape movie? Like, what do y'all think of that?
I think most of it is definitely about that. That is the central focus, is him learning that he's a father all of a sudden, when it's very clear that it was not a planned thing, not in his game plan. And then him having to deal with that, but also just, I mean, because of the way the world is in this movie, it's not just the setting. I think makes me think that it's not just about that. It's about, it's the ugliness of the world, and realizing that at a certain age, you're walking around, and you're like, I don't know. It's that anxiety of adulthood, I think, because of how old, like, David Lynch, when he wrote this, was like in his 20s, and he was a new father, and he said that's obviously, his daughter said that was partly the inspiration of the movie, was her unexpected birth. And she was born with like extremely clubbed feet, I read.
Yeah, she had
that required a bunch of surgeries.
Yeah.
So obviously that contributes. Some of it has to do with him. He grew up in the Northwest and then moved to Philadelphia, and apparently had a horrible few years living in Philadelphia. And
he was mugged all the time and lived in a terrible part of town, and
Yeah, so it's a combination of things, anxieties, adult anxieties.
Yeah. I totally felt, I guess for me, it felt like, like the anxiety of things coming to an end, or like the loss of freedom is kind of like what I was gathering. Even though he never had freedom before the child,
we don't see
I could tell just on his reaction when they have a kid, he's like, oh, to the point to where like, even like, we're going to get married now. And then he's like, oh, that's cool. No, that's cool. He's just like, in his mind, he's freaking out about a baby. He's like, the marriage is cool. I can do that.
I think he liked her.
Oh, wait, that's how you interpreted that? I think, no, that was very forced upon him as well. I don't think he was cool with that either. I think I forgot what the exact interaction was, but everything is very forced upon him. He's a passive character until the very end.
Yeah.
And
The passiveness is like the thing that I really felt like with everything. Like even when there's the other girl that he's attracted to across the hallway or whatever, like he's so
As I
passive.
called her, damp neighbor. Because she was always moist. Her skin was shiny, her lips were wet, her hair looked kind of fresh from the shower. Yeah, damp neighbor.
the damn
God.
lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even want
And then,
to
well,
find out what that means in Lynch's mind.
Yeah.
you have the lady in the radiator, which is his dreams. It's like that's his last. It's kind of like losing your childhood dreams and your childhood
Yeah,
innocence.
she was very Shirley Temple-like, that lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my god. So I guess
yeah.
one question I have with Lynch films, since y'all are a little more experienced, like, is there even a point of trying to like figure out what he's trying to say with each element, or do y'all think it's just like whatever you feel? Because so like the radiator thing, like, why is a radiator the thing causing you to think of your childhood, and then why is that imagination this lady with these like weird crunchy thick cheeks that look like paper mache? So like do y'all try to process this, or like what do y'all do?
Yeah. I do. I try.
I don't. I like to just let go with Lynch and just let it hit me in waves and just feel the feelings. Because I think that's what he cares about more than like concrete points and meanings. Because he's very like stern about refusing to explain Twin Peaks, right? Like anytime anyone asks him, he's like, well, what do you think? Or he just won't explain it. And I don't think... And he was mad that the network made him solve the mystery in Twin Peaks. Like, he never wanted to solve the mystery. So he doesn't like... I think he actively doesn't like explanations, and he doesn't want that. And I think he wants you to just feel. And so that's always what I try to do, is just feel it. And...
It's a good approach.
Yeah, and that's, I think, part of why I love him, because I can just kind of stop worrying and stop trying to solve the puzzle and just turn my brain off and just let the images just affect me in the like a pure open way.
Yeah.
And it often makes me smile and laugh and cringe, and I'm often more engaged than I am in other movies. Because some movies, you know, you're trying to figure them out. You're trying to follow what's going to happen next. And just don't even try with David Lynch. Just, like, you can't. Like, every time you sit down to one of his movies, or even any episode of Twin Peaks, you have no idea what's going to happen in that episode. You don't know what characters we're going to hang out with. You don't know what's going to happen to them. It's every episode is different, and so every one of his movies is different, and every scene is different. You don't know what he's going to go to next. Are we going into the radiator? Are we going to make out with the neighbor? Are we going to deal with the baby? Does the baby have pox this time? Or is it suddenly healed for some reason? Like, who knows? Who cares? It's just, what feeling are we going to next? Is he trying to ground himself by being nostalgic about Shirley Temple and being a kid? Or is he having anxiety that his kid is sick? Or is he feeling horny and wishes he was still single and could hook up with the neighbor? Like, what feeling are we traveling to next? And that's how I feel about this movie and David Lynch in general.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
And then
I do
down.
I do love dissecting. Yeah, like, because it's kind of like dreams. There's like people who think, oh, dreams are just random images that your brain is processing the experiences from the day. But then the question is, why does your brain pick those specific images and those specific symbols? Like, it could there's an infinite amount of details that your brain could have picked up. Like, why did it pick up those? And that's what I think is really interesting about dissecting. David Lynch is like, like, why did he pick these symbols and these images? And because I don't think I agree. Like, I don't think he thinks super deeply about every detail in his movie. I think it comes really naturally to him.
I think he does have an explanation, but I think he would never reveal it, and that is not the point. Like, he has an internal logic, but it's none of your business. Like, you are supposed to experience it for yourself.
Or
and
he likes
mad respect.
Yeah, he likes people coming up with their own everyone has their own interpretation of it. Yeah. I think he thinks that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love that about him. Yes.
Well, getting into that, let's break this thing down then, because I have a lot of questions because I don't get anything. So
Let's
we'll
just
start
go with
from
your
the
questions.
very beginning. There's a man and a planet. No, wait. No, before that, we see the main character, right? And then he's like, there's like two images like superimposed over each other, like the weird sperm-looking thing, and then him screaming. What is that?
He screams
Is
it
that
out.
the conception? Like the sperm and the egg? Is the big planet the egg, and those little squiggles are the sperm? And
No, I think
Right,
the planet is his brain for sure.
Yeah, okay.
I think the planet is his psyche, because it's got that. The man in the planet he's pulling the levers. He's the man in your head. But yeah, what I noticed this time, for sure, I didn't notice before, was that he is like screaming. It's like a slow motion scream when he opens his mouth and ejects the sperm, which I think is a very on theme for this movie. It's the horror of conception. It's the horror of reproduction.
So that was Lynch's attempt at a sex scene.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And the the pool later. That's like the part where he was making out with damp neighbor in the pool of white liquid in his bed. Like, I was like, yeah, this is a very Lynchian sex scene. Like, this is about as hot as it ever gets. Like,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love how in this scene just the sperm just kind of drops into the pool really pitifully. I thought.
Yeah.
It is the most cynical. It's the most cynical symbolic representation of reproduction you could probably imagine. It's just like a little crater, just a crater in the ground, and it just drops in there, and that's it.
But, oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, so after that, I think he's like starts walking through a city. What did y'all think about the whole landscape and like architecture of everything?
Isn't that how your commute is? Typical day, on your way home, you have to go wind through random basement full of steaming pipes. That's not how your day goes every day? I don't understand. David Lynch loves steam, doesn't he? Like, there's stuff steaming all the time, everywhere. And it's so aesthetically nice, especially in black and white. And I was really noticing that. Like, there's another thing steaming. Like, he had the humidifier for the baby at one point, and that was so pretty.
Reminded me of the tea kettle from Twin Peaks.
Me
I was
too.
like, that's exact. It was pointing the same direction, and there was one shot that was really similar, and I was like, wow, look at that. That's cool.
Yeah, there are so many things where it's like, wow, he just still makes the same images all the time. He's just still obsessed with like these stark leafless trees indoors. Like, he just has that everywhere.
The pools and the tree are like right outside the red room in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Obviously, the checkered floor being in Twin Peaks in the red room.
Oh my gosh! I was like, I immediately freaked out and pointed at that zigzag floor when he gets to his apartment. I was like, it's the Black Lodge, and my brother was like, yeah, this movie's basically set in the Black Lodge, and I was like, oh. Sorry, Anthony.
I'm just like, what?
So sorry.
The nuclear bomb, like the picture of the nuclear bomb that is in Henry's
his wall.
room, hilarious.
Yes, perfect.
There is a lot
and what's
for
with
the,
all
for the
all the pine straw on the floor? Like, why was the floor so dirty and covered in mulch? Like, just organic material everywhere. And he didn't seem like he got home, this is later in the movie, and flops down on his bed like stomach first and just kind of puts his hands under his chin and looks down at the mulch on his floor. Like, time for me to have my, come home and contemplate the moss and junk growing in my bedroom. And once I get done processing that, then I'll be able to converse with my wife and deal with my baby. But I just really need to stare at this mulch for a minute. Like, what?
He's got a date with the lady in the radiator.
Yeah, I guess he was staring at the radiator, but like I was just so distracted by how dirty, like not dirty in like a normal way, but in this is kind of camping indoors, dirty.
Yeah. So David, what do you take all that to mean? Like the plant on his like counter, the dirt under the radiator, like the mixture of the outside indoors, like what does that mean to you?
I don't know. I don't have a strong thing on that. Besides that, his art. I think if you look at David Lynch's art, because he wanted to be an artist before he was, or a painter before he was a filmmaker, and I think I've seen lots of his art has like just dirt, like kind of piles of dirt and stuff like that in it. So I think that's just an image that he likes. I don't know, like bare trees and dirt. Because the tree though comes back in the climax, so I feel like that's the most significant part of it. The bare tree that bleeds. The only connection I could make, I was just, and I think this makes sense for David Lynch, is you're just kind of making connections in your head, like this reminds you of this, it reminds you of this, but it's like the family tree, because that's kind of what this movie is about. And it's just the ugliness of the family tree that just bleeds from its roots and sucks up his head. Like it's a loss of identity. I mean, I feel like the title Eraserhead, it's all about him losing his identity to his new family.
Because now you're being absorbed into something else. That makes a lot of sense. That is what I felt from the dirt indoors. It felt like I don't know, because you think of Earth and the ground as like teeming with life, and then it was just ironic that all the dirt indoors and the moss and all that feels very dead, or like it felt like maybe at some point it was alive and lively and green, and now it's just brown, even though we don't see the color brown because it's in black and white. Like it feels like I can tell everything's dead. Like even that little, it just looked like a dead branch with like way too much dirt just plopped on his nightstand.
Yeah.
And then, I laughed when it rolled out in the theater production. It was just a giant,
the tree,
just twig. Yeah, just a giant dead twig is what it felt like. And I just imagine maybe at some point, it was a living bush or something, and it's just like a reflection of his. Of like the world, because you see that we never really see any living greenery that looks like flourishing in any sort of way, but we do get a lot of pipes and steam and weird industrial architecture. So I guess
makes sense.
Coming off that,
a little detail, sorry in that city where he's walking home, I love there's a detail where he accidentally steps in a puddle, and I couldn't help but draw the comparison to the first scene. Just like that little accident of stepping in the puddle is kind of another little image of accidental conception.
But also straight up Charlie Chaplin, like the movie The Kid. I think Charlie Chaplin steps into a puddle of mud almost exactly in the same way. So I was like, oh my gosh, he's just straight up homaging to Chaplin right now. But maybe that was just me because I've seen that movie recently. But if Lynch was a fan of silent movies, very well could be. And also just all the dirt and all the dead stuff also felt very Single Man to me. Like he never cleans and he never maintains anything, and everything's just decaying in his apartment, and the dust all over the record player. I was like, I've been in some apartments like this owned by single men. Yeah, for sure.
His blanket is shredded. His blanket is just nothing.
Yeah.
Well, he is also not, to defend all the single men out there. Like he's married in the movie, so I don't know.
Yeah, but not at the beginning. And she has to move into his apartment. Yeah. She hasn't had enough time. Yeah.
She nopes out of there.
Oh my God. But I wanted to talk about the dinner scene, because that's when I really started like, all right, what the hell am I watching? Specifically, oh my God, there's so much to go into. So I guess we'll start from the beginning, but like there's this grandmother character that's just, what What is that?
I love
Y'all
that.
explain.
Well, she made the salad. If you set the salad
sure
in her
did.
lap and put her hands, then I was like, she's doing this so that she can carry the salad in there and be like, Grandma made this for y'all. But no, I mean, yeah, catatonic grandma you're taking care of. Yeah, seems like an American family, right? Like, I don't know. I don't.
It's on theme. It's just like I mean, he's the whole thing of him is, I feel like, is the anxieties of aging and becoming an adult, and then there's this look how depressing this old lady is. Like she's at that age, she's just catatonic. She just can't even do anything herself, and she's just
you have to move
shell.
in with your kids and be taken care of by your kids, and your kids resentfully have to take care of you, and you're just kind of set in a corner in their house and not even taken to the table for dinner or introduced to the house guest. You're just furniture when you're elderly.
Oh my God. I've never, literally until you said that right now, I've never even thought about the fact that she doesn't even go to the table. She doesn't even get invited to the dinner table. That's so sad.
Yeah.
She just smoked her cigarette, and that's all she got to do. Oh my God. Well, coming off of that, David, what do the small little chickens mean that he cuts up? That was the weirdest thing, and they just kept like shivering up and down with their little chicken legs.
Obviously, there's weird, not sexual things, but just like, I guess, fear of like men's silly fear of like menstruation and like women in general. Like I don't know. Is it that simple, or is it something else?
No, I mean, the way I took all of that was just like, when you go to a new family's house and they have a whole different culture than yours and they're used to, and they eat weird food that you've never had before or seen before, and they're acting like it's normal, and they're like watching you expectantly to see what you think of it, and you don't even know how to eat it or how to cut into it, and it's just scary, and you feel like you're going to offend them, and you feel like you're being scrutinized, and you feel like this is some kind of test, and then it all goes horribly wrong. And that was sort of how I felt about that whole scene. It's just the excruciating misery of meeting parents for the first time. It was very similar to the dinner scene in that movie, I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Oh, yeah.
I thought about that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. That did not cross my mind while watching. But now it makes so much sense.
Were so crazy and so inconsistent and so frightening.
Okay, so this is like the weird surrealist version of that. Because I'm Thinking of Ending Things was so upfront and all, like it was explaining itself as it was proceeding. Like, look at these parents with the monologues and stuff. Wow. Yeah. I guess one thing I laughed at was when the father came in and he just like violently has this like outburst like, who do you think did all the pipes around here? Or something.
No,
like my knees.
Such a typical dad.
It never gets brought up again. Like no one asked him. There was no topic.
Yeah.
And I love how the train is getting louder and louder as he is getting louder and louder, and it's this nice little crescendo, and then it dies down. I thought that was a really cool touch.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, the moment where he just turns to Henry, he's like, yeah, what do you know? And then his face just freezes for the next 5 minutes.
So much.
Oh,
yes.
It's like scary. It's frightening. It's unnerving, but it's hilarious. Yeah.
It's also like weirdly friendly. Like, hey, nice to meet you. What do you know? Like, it's sort of like, what is your story or what do you do? But it even is more abstract and vague and impossible to answer. Like, just a deeply caricature version of meeting someone's dad and having them seem like they're asking you an innocuous question, and again, you're just frozen and unable to answer it because that's a crazy question to ask in your anxious brain. Like, I don't know. I guess I vibe with this whole thing so well because I'm such an anxious person. But and I mean, how the mom was like getting right in his face, like, did you have intercourse? And and he's just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and then she starts to come on to him, and it's even worse. And
everything that could go wrong.
Yeah.
So what does the whole her making out with his neck and stuff? What is that? the mother doing that? Like, what
It's
is
just
it's
weird
just
edible
weirdness?
things going
Just-
on?
Yeah, weird Oedipal, like, just aggressive. I mean, that's what the girl is maybe going to age into, is that woman. And
Oh, so it's kind of like
and maybe he's kind of attracted to her because, I don't know.
she knows how to cook.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
God.
little baby chickens. God, those things are so. They were so small. He's like, "How do I cut it?" And I was like, "You don't. You're just gonna squish it." It's just. It was like it's.
They
Yeah.
have a tiny little stove too. Tiny little stove, tiny little kitchen.
I mean, yeah, my mom, who is a chef, and I watched this, she was like, "Oh, squabs! You're not supposed to cut those. You just pick them up and eat them." Like she she was knew. what
Wait, those
they
are
were.
real things?
Yeah, like
Wow.
little pigeons that you cook and eat, like, and they look like that. Yeah.
Do they bleed?
My God.
No. They are not full of chocolate sauce or whatever.
Okay.
Oh
I
my
liked
God.
I loved the weird random panting that both the daughter and the mom. Yeah, like the daughter does at first, where she just randomly just starts whimpering and like gagging on the couch, and the mom just starts brushing her hair, and that like calms her down.
Yeah.
But they just ignore that it's happening. Oh my God, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. Perfect
Yeah.
awkwardness and just what is
Yeah.
going on right now.
Oh, and the image of the dog with the like 20 pups.
Yeah,
It was like that was
making just
disturbing.
disgusting sounds. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, children, babies, so many babies. What are they going to do with all these puppies? How are they going to take care of them? How did this happen? Yeah, It was a hint. It was a foreshadow.
Yeah.
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 Well, talking about babies, the major, beauty of this film, in my opinion, is the baby that we see. What did y'all think about that and how it was? I mean, how the hell did they make it? Which I guess is a mystery. I don't know, but
Yeah.
what did y'all think of that?
I mean, isn't it amazing that this is before E.T.? Or, like, it's so
Yeah.
one of the earliest examples of this extremely lifelike creature.
Yeah.
I love a practical effect, and these were so amazing. I was afraid I was going to be really disturbed by this movie, that there was going to be this baby creature, and I was going to feel, like, weirdly maternal towards it and upset that they were neglecting or abusing it. But it kind of helped me that it was attached to the table. And I was like, the person working it has to be underneath the table working it, and that's
That
why it's
comforted
there.
you.
And yeah, that's why they can't walk up and pick it up and comfort it. So I wasn't like screaming at them to be like, just pick it up, it just needs a hug. I was like, no, but then it wouldn't work if it got picked up, because then they wouldn't be able to move its mouth and its eyes, because the guy is under there doing that. So it like helped me, the filmmakingness of it helped me not be as disturbed by it. But yeah, I loved how wet and shiny it was, and how the eyes were so expressive and the mouth was so expressive. I was very impressed. Yeah.
The tongue, it's got a tongue. Like,
Yeah.
the inside of its mouth, you can see all the way down, like its throat, and it looks real. And
Yeah.
and when it gets the sores, when it gets sick, even that looks real.
Yeah.
And
How, like,
the eye
weird
gets
and
all
maggoty.
foggy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what did you find in your research about what it was? Did you find anything, David? Because like I've found a couple people assume what it was.
Yeah, I think the main rumor that I always hear is that it's a calf fetus, like a cow, fetus of a cow, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Or a
Yeah.
lamb fetus.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It was a lamb fetus. And like supposedly Lynch around this time would play with animals, like dead animals, and skin them and stuff. So some people thought it was like a baby rabbit that was just skinned.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's disturbing. And like, I was just thinking, like, wow. So he either became a surrealist artist, or he could have become a serial killer.
Serial killer.
Like those are your two options if
No.
you're, having fun going to town on animals.
I think he is too much of a sweetheart for that. I think you watch all of his work. Yeah. I don't know. I love that he wanted to keep it a secret from even the crew. Like he blindfolded the crew when he would bring the prop in so they wouldn't see it and how it worked. I love that. He was very he really cared about this movie and the secretiveness of it. I think that's cool. That's adorable.
So what is your opinion of that, David? Like, just the idea of like not explaining what your work is about or not showing things, because I think you'd probably fit in that category, wouldn't you? Like, you wouldn't want to over explain your narratives or art.
I guess so. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It's more fun not to.
What about you, Helen? Would you be...
I don't know. I think if it serves the story and the narrative... Are you talking about telling the crew about it?
No, I just mean in general. Like I feel like back in the day, you know, this was the style. Like if you made an album, you don't say what the songs are actually about. Like, it speaks for itself. But nowadays, you know, especially with like TV stuff, like all the creators are always talking like, oh, this is about this is about that, blah, blah, blah. And everything's being explained. Like, there's like just commentary upon commentary from the creators, even to the point where certain creators are like undoing things they've said. Like, I mean, famously, like J.K. Rowling. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone can't separate themselves from their art, and they are in it, and they may as well just come clean about what it meant to them. But I also think and fully believe that every person that sees a work of art feels and experiences it differently, and you don't want to ruin that person's experience for them by explaining it. Like, some songs, it has ruined the song for me to know what it was about. Like, oh, this was just about an affair that John Lennon had? Well, now that's not as cool, you know? Like, or something like that. And it just depends on the story. It really does. Like, if it's something that everybody is just infuriated and they're like, what does it mean? And it's driving me crazy, I might be like, well, here's what I meant. Maybe I would give in and explain it. But if it's something that's just emotion and abstraction like this, I think it would be like, what do you feel when you watch it? Then you're right. What you felt is right, because it's about feelings and not about story. Yeah. So why should I have to explain it? I mean, I made it for one reason, but maybe you watch it for a different reason. Yeah. So it depends on what kind of story you're telling, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess it makes a lot of sense for this kind of surrealist stuff. Like, if he were to explain everything, it could get boring very fast. Like,
and, you know what? I really want Cronenberg to explain Crimes of the Future at length. Like, I really, like, there's a story where it's like, what exactly did you mean and what exactly was unfolding with these specific characters? Please talk to me about it. But yeah, with David Lynch, it's like, I feel pretty confident that whatever I come up with that I think it means, he would be like, thumbs up, great. You did good job. You thought about my work, and I would be fine with the mystery. Yeah, there are certain things that like create a world and create a structure and create a political moving pieces, and Lynch is just not like that. David Lynch is just an amalgamation of images. So yeah, why explain that? Well, why?
Yeah, and it's like archetypal. Like, that's what he's trying to do. Yeah. He's fishing in the collective unconscious. So it makes sense that he doesn't want to, because it's like he wants to tap into universal feelings and symbols, so they are shared. So why would there's not one interpretation of these symbols. He's just using them to tell a story. So it makes sense.
Well, talking off of that, when the baby gets sick, like, what did you think about that, David? Because it disturbed me so much. Like, I have a very huge apprehension of like mold, and for some reason these weird bumps gave me that same sensation of like, I don't know, it just really creeped me out. Like, I mean, the man in the planet looked like that, but just seeing this little, I mean, I actually grew very fond of the baby. Like, I was like, I would take care of this baby right now.
Yeah.
Like, they were, and then the other thing, the baby crying was not that bad. Like, I've heard way worse annoying children crying. True. And I was like, I could live the rest of my life with this baby crying in the background. Like, that's totally okay. But yeah, what did you think about it being sick?
I don't know. I just love the jump shot. I love that it was just my God. It's hilarious. It's one of the points of comedy of the movie where, he's just, it's all nice. He's walking. It's like a cartoon. The baby's quiet. He's got to calm down. He turns away. and then looks
Yeah.
back, and immediately just zoom in. It's covered in cinders. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's just exactly the anxiety of parenthood. And like where she leaves, and so now he's in charge, and he seems like he has it together at first, where it's like, okay, baby's crying. Well, let's go in the cabinet and get the thermometer and see if he's sick. That's the thing you do when a baby is crying and won't calm down. Like, he's trying his best to be like, do the right thing. And then he did the right thing. He checked the temperature. The temperature was perfect. Okay, baby's not sick. I can relax. And then it's like, then it clicks over into nightmare world where it's like every new parent's fear is that their kid is going to be suddenly dangerously sick and you're going to have no idea what to do and it's going to be terrifying. And yes, and so then it exactly happened that way. Like, oh my God. And so then he's just sitting up with it with the humidifier, like slowly losing his grip on his ability to figure out, to problem solve. And it just degrades and degrades and degrades. Yeah. Yeah. Hashtag relatable.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was really fun watching this with my mom because the part where the mom wakes up and's like, I can't take it anymore. I need one good night of sleep. You can do this for one night. I'm leaving. I'm going home. And mom was like, said every new mom ever, am I right? And I was like, hell yeah. Like, I mean, we were just straight up relating to that right there. Like, yeah. It was a weird bonding experience. And mom was like, you know, newborns do kind of look like aliens. And I was like, yeah, they kind of do.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we were very, very much riffing on that whole situation. And another thing that I really thought was great was the ace bandages to swaddle the baby. I was like, why didn't I think of that? That would have probably been such a good solution. It probably would have soothed the baby so well to like how tight you can get an ace bandage to just really cozy him up. I was like, that's a great life hack right there. But anyway.
Yeah, but then when you cut it open, it might just explode.
No, you don't. You don't cut it open. You unwrap it. They couldn't pick it up because it was attached to the table.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna ask actually. I was gonna get a female perspective on this movie because I was wondering, like, does it come across kind of unfair, the mother's portrayal? Like, she's kind of she's sort of like just a cartoon of a bad mom. Like, I don't know. Did you like? Did it seem like that to you? Because it kind of seemed like that to me a little bit. Like, it was from Henry's perspective completely. So she was just like, geez, what a bitch. Like, she just leaves. Like, he's there, like, taking care of the baby. She just leaves and she just abandons her child. After, I mean, obviously he didn't like really want it. And he was kind of like, all right, come over. We'll all live at my tiny little apartment. And he's trying to make the best of it. And it's like, he's portrayed as very like, oh, like, you know, he's trying to make it work. He's trying to be the good dad. And like, she's just like, nopes out of there. Leaves him with the baby.
I don't think she was actually gone that long. I think she really just wanted to go to her parents' house and sleep for a night. Because I'm really not clear on the timeline of this movie. I think it's just one night. And so if it's just one night, I think she had obviously been there with the baby all day trying to get it to eat, and it was spitting the food in her face all day. And man, if you've been doing that all day and now you can't sleep, like, maybe, yeah, you would need a break, and maybe you would resent the dad of the kid for not helping more. And, yeah, storm out. Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't think it really portrayed her poorly. Like, yeah, she was a teen mom. This was just as unexpected for her. She's just as stressed out and miserable. Yeah, I don't think it was really that gross of a portrayal of a woman.
Okay. I needed that perspective because I think
this movie, if she was gone for good, that's a little screwed up. But I think she just went away for a night.
Yeah, that's how I remembered the movie. For some reason, I remembered it, that she just left and then she never came back. And then when she came back this time, I was like, oh yeah, she comes back. That's weird. I forgot about that. But then doesn't she just leave again? Because she's not there when when he's with the neighbor lady or anything. So
yeah, I just still think this was all just one long, miserable, feverish one night of dreaming and awake and stressing, and I just don't know. I couldn't. The time is weird. But I think that this movie is a very masculine movie inherently.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is a very male fear of parenthood, and it's not at all like the
Yes.
woman's fear of parenthood. Like, that's not a horror movie about being a mom would be completely different than this. It would be a lot more focused on how horrifying and afraid you are of the birth. It would be a lot more focused. It would be a sleepless night, but it would not be like this.
Isn't there a movie?
Yeah,
is there a movie like that? 'Cause
Probably.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I'm getting things in the edge of my mind, but I can't think of a specific movie.
Yeah.
But
But
I
what
know
did y'all
there
think
is-
about? Does this movie feel very masculine to y'all? Like very male primal fears to y'all?
Yeah, I guess that's what I was getting at. Yeah, it's very like centered on him, on Henry.
Yeah.
It's very like his the responsibility just getting piled up on him, his loss of independence, loss of space, loss of his childhood dreams and innocence.
Yeah. And
Just
I
the
think that
drudgery of life and work
Yeah.
and yeah.
dudes are way more freaked out by the idea of suddenly being saddled with a baby. I feel like women would be.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. It's like it wouldn't be as existential. Maybe I don't know what I'm
Right.
trying to say, but yeah, it is very
Yeah, it's
much
like
like
the
a
biological.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
There's
agree.
no biological imperative to think that baby is cute. Like
Yeah.
where women literally have the hormones that flood their brain when they have a baby to think whatever it is cute. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I think it was more like the masculine fear of like commitment, because it feels like a loss of other options, which is always funny. Like there was this like study, I forgot what it was. I forgot the specifics, but it was like married couples. They did a study like, what do you think your chances of finding another partner would be? And then the women mostly like answer like, I don't care to try it. And then there was like, the number ratio that you think you'd hit. And then the guys were always like, yeah, I could probably find like 3 other women like immediately. Like it'd be so easy, like like I'm being restricted. And it's just really funny. And then like the study was completely wrong when they were like let free to like go, try to find a partner. The women immediately found a partner, and the men were just struggling buffoons, and then just desperate to get back. And I was like, oh. So I feel like
funny.
that ties into this, where it's like it didn't seem like he had a successful life, but then now he's committed to this woman, and now he has a child that is going to be part of the rest of his life. And then now he's maybe nightmare thinking about, having to spend the rest of his life, also taking care of the parents and like all these other aspects. Because now talking about the movie, I'm starting to think the whole movie is just like a weird nightmare dream. Like he had a sexual relationship with this person, and then he just starts going into this nightmare stress spiral anxiety attack of, these are all the things that would happen, and she's pregnant now, even though maybe she isn't. I don't know if y'all feel that at all.
Yeah.
I could see that being an interpretation.
Because
And
the film starts with that like abstract, sex moment, and then it ends in this weird blinding light moment. So it almost feels like the same, I don't know, it feels like the same event. Like, or maybe even while he's having sex, he's like
He's
spiraling
having this
into his
movie in his head.
subconscious. And it's like, this is the future. And then he finally finishes, and then that's the end of the film, which is the blinding light. It's like, oh, well, already the deed is done.
yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah, I
was
did-
amazing. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, but like how he literally, with that other woman thing, how literally the woman across the hall, his head turns into the baby's head, where he's literally thinking, like, all she's gonna see when she looks at me now is my baby, and she's not gonna see me anymore, and I'm just a person that has a baby now, and I'm not attractive to her anymore, and I didn't realize how badly I wanted to be attractive to her until right now, and now that my head has turned into this baby's head. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's
That
the
makes
same
sense.
kind of theory. Like you see this hot woman across your hallway, and you're like, oh, she could have been a partner to me, but now she can't because I have a baby. But in reality, she probably never would have been with or without a baby. because she never was before you had a baby. So
Yeah.
gosh.
And seeing her make out with the other guy at one
Weird
point.
looking dude.
Yeah, and just how he seemed really crushed by that. And like, was there sex scene? I think that was all just a dream, like a wet dream for his neighbor, literally wet in a pool of milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. One thing I wanted to ask. So David, do you think when he cut the baby's bandages, do you think he meant to kill the baby, or you think that was just an accident? Because he wasn't aware that his organs would literally just spill out.
Yeah, I think it was just an accident because he looks.
But then he stabbed it,
shocked and surprised.
So, that was the follow-up question that I was thinking, is like, did he stab it because all its organs are splayed out, and now he's like, I can't put this back together? Was it more of like a mercy, kind of like, oh, it's suffering, and now I have to end its suffering? Did y'all read that at all?
I think no. It was definitely just like a fantasy of like, what if I could get out of this situation? Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Well,
for
yeah,
sure.
that whole the reveal of that was disgusting. And then like he stabbed it and it bleeds, and then it like spits out blood, and it was just like, oh my god, this is like a
and
brutal...
all the oatmeal goop. Like,
I love that.
The room is flooded with oatmeal goop. Like, wow.
I was eating cereal when that started happening this morning, and I literally almost like threw up my cereal. I was like, that was the grossest thing ever. And yeah, it was probably just oatmeal, but for some reason, in that moment, it felt like the most disturbing thing ever.
Yeah.
Don't eat while watching this movie. Do not do it. Should have said that in the non-spoiler section. Do not eat while... Public service announcement. Do not have food near you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What were you going to say earlier, David?
I don't even remember, but
Okay.
what I was gonna say now was the other reason that that's definitely intentional that he kills the baby is because it's foreshadowed by the lady in the radiator and her little dance that she does where she's stepping on the
stomping on them,
squishing the sperm, squishing the worms. And so that's like his fantasy. That's the birth of, well, the first is when he gets the tiny little black package in the mail that has a tiny little worm in it. And that's like the seed. That's the seed of his temptation, I think, is what that represents. And he puts it in, he hides it away. He hides it from his wife. And just kind of puts it away and hides it. And then later he takes it out and looks at it, and it grows and it gets bigger and kind of breaks free and squirms around in a nice little stop motion sequence. And it's like his temptation, the thought, when you first have a thought in your head and then it's just like growing and growing over time. I think that's what that is.
Oh, and it makes sense with the planet being his brain, because it's dancing around in the little brain crater, so it's like how ideas fester, and it's just interesting.
Yeah. And the lady in the radiator is just like, it's like part of him that's the fantasy, kind of the Madonna, the like Madonna and the horror sort of psychological thing. It's like the lady in the radiator and the lady next door are those two. And so the lady in the radiator is like the one that it's almost like she's almost like a savior figure that he's like, man, if I could only, she's tempting him, she's giving him these ideas, and then in the end she's embracing him for his decision. It's like, it's really interesting. She's like a Jesus showing him the way. But she's more like a Satan that's like tempting him the entire way.
Oh my god. And then I heard or listened that those things she was squishing was like real animal intestines that they like got.
Oh.
And
Nice.
and then the other part where I don't understand what's happening. Maybe y'all can clear it up. But he wakes up in the middle of the night and she's like tossing around, like biting her teeth. and then he
Oh,
feels
yeah.
under the bed, and there's like weird intestinal things that he's like chunking at the
Yeah,
wall.
it's like she's having more babies coming out. Like she's
Yeah.
just giving birth and birth and
Oh.
birth. Like this is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that I interpreted that as like she's just gonna keep having mutant babies. I'm just gonna be married to this woman, and I'm just gonna have all these kids, and it's gonna be horrifying every time. And he's like throwing them against the wall.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Umbilical
That's-
cords. They were actually real umbilical cords, not intestines.
Oh.
Wow.
That's
nice.
So yeah, that's, I don't know.
So I want to talk about the actual Eraserhead of it all.
cool. Yeah.
Because that seems to me like the most accurate dream thing possible, where it's like, you know, when you have a dream and you're trying to describe it / think about it again, and you're like, I was, you know, my head fell off, but I think maybe it was a mannequin that looked like me, and then it was in the street and a kid picked it up, and like it looked really plastic, but in like I think he was being praised for finding a good piece of rubber for the eraser factory, but also it was me that was being cut up and turned into erasers. Like, you know how you try to describe a dream and it just doesn't make any sense, but visually in your head while you were asleep it made perfect sense? Like, that's exactly how that sequence felt to me, where it was just like, wow, this is the most perfect, gross, scary nightmare that I have ever seen on film almost.
Dream
And-
logic, like that's
yeah.
what David Lynch is so good at, which is so cool,
Yeah.
is to see like
Yeah.
dream logic actually just on film making sense. And
Yeah.
I read that was the core of the movie, was he had a daydream about a man's head being taken to a pencil factory by a small boy, and that was
Wow.
that's what started it all, was this daydream that he had. So it makes
Wow.
sense.
Yeah, and just so amazing how like they just calmly check to see if they draw a line and erase it to see if the erasers are good. Is this head a good head for making this? Did we make good quality pencils? The little quality control at the end just somehow just got me so hard. Yeah.
I love the little guy buzzing the bell, and then the boss coming out like a
Yes.
it's like a silent movie cartoon or something, where he just comes out and he's pointing the finger in his face, you know, yelling at him.
And
Yeah,
and he's like getting anxious, so he's starting to do a beat, like a tune with the button, like like he's like, come on, man. That was the lightest, funniest, most charming part, like where those actors in that moment felt more alive than really anyone else, I think.
Yeah. So what did y'all, I think you said earlier, David, that you think the Eraserhead is just like like a metaphorical like loss or erasure of your mentality or psychology or
identity,
mind identity. Okay.
Just his, I think that it's just his loss of his feeling of losing his identity in this moment in his life. And it just he's just becoming, well, first it shows him, like Helen said, was, you know, first he's turning into, it's like the baby inside him. The baby is his identity now, because his head pops off and the baby's head is there, replacing
that was such
it.
a cool image.
Yeah.
But the first thing that happened, oh man, and there's so many wonderful details that, like, it, because it's dream stuff, it's not, I don't think you could even plan it. I really do think this is all just from David Lynch's daydream, because it's too perfectly put together. But all the connotations, like him going to the pole and he's sort of like rubbing the pole anxiously, but it's kind of like, you know, this is sort of the masturbation image, and then his head popping off. And at first when the head pops off, like it's like a giant, it looks like a loaf of bread or something, but it's obviously like a very phallic thing popping his head off, and then it looks at something else, and then it goes back and it's the baby's head, and then the tree bleeding, and like we already talked about, and swallowing his head. It's just so many wonderful like symbols all crushed into this sequence that's the heart of the movie. But yeah, I think it's all about him just losing his identity, his fear of, he's just his baby now. Like he is just like he becomes just a product, just an eraser. Like that's it. Like he's been reduced to the assembly line of humanity. He's just continuing that assembly line, and that's it, you know.
But he made a good eraser. He was a high quality.
Yeah, he did.
But he was a terrible parent.
Yeah.
Right. True. Yeah. In his fantasy, he made a good product. Yeah.
So you're either a good eraser or you're a good parent. You can't be both.
Right.
Guess so. Yeah. I loved the dreamness of this movie. Like, have y'all ever had a night where you were having such a hard time sleeping, but you're also having so many vivid dreams when you do go to sleep, but it's like for 15 minutes at a time, and the night feels like 3 times as long? Like, you look at the clock over and over and over, and you're like, I feel like I was asleep for 3 hours and only 30 minutes have passed, and what is going on? Will this night ever end? The sun is never going to come up. Like, this movie very much gave me that feeling and was very much giving me those memories of, like, the time I was sleeping in a tent and I didn't have my phone, and I couldn't, like, it felt like, surely it's almost morning. I am so uncomfortable in this sleeping bag, and the night just felt endless and I felt crazy. Like, this very much captured that feeling as well.
Yes. Yeah. Endless night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it night the entire? Even at the end of the movie, I'm trying to think. He looks out the window, but it's hard to tell if it's day or night in his apartment because he literally just has a brick wall outside his window, and there's like cool shots of where it's like the buildings above him are moving or something, and there's a beam of light coming in very briefly, just a sliver of light coming down from somewhere, but then it closes. It keeps opening and closing. It's very claustrophobic. It's constantly night in his apartment.
Yeah.
Gosh. So I guess did y'all have any other major talking points or points? I think that's everything that happens in the movie. Well, besides the ending imagery of I guess when he finally becomes whatever, saved or in salvation.
Oh yeah.
What did y'all take that, like the whole ending where it just like whites out?
I mean, maybe that was
that
dawn.
shot of. Oh, maybe he woke up finally. It was morning.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was just I mean, it's kind of a boring interpretation, but just the dramatic interpretation is just that he killed his baby and then he couldn't handle the guilt, so he killed himself. But I don't know, that's a little melodramatic, I feel like, to be real, but it kind of makes sense with the big baby head kind of haunting him and coming towards him, and he's just cowering in shame in the corner in the darkness, and then the electricity of the light bulb blowing out, you know, I don't know. It does make sense, sort of, like that he just killed himself, and because obviously the ending shot is very heaven-like in the all white and the embrace, and he's embracing his fantasy, and I don't know.
I did love the giant props of the baby head.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of
I was not
cool.
expecting that, and then they just kept like moving and like getting closer and closer to him. Oh my god. Yeah. I wonder if they have like little dolls of that baby
Probably.
that you can buy.
Yeah, like
I
action
would,
figures.
I would buy one.
Oh my god.
I really like the
Eraserhead
baby.
Yeah.
I think I have it
and I
made.
would buy that lamp where you can turn it on and it's just one side or both sides, or both sides and the middle light. Like, you can have 3 different settings of light. I was just like, I could not stop looking at that lamp. I was like, I want it so bad.
Oh, they have those.
Like, what a cool design. Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I see on Etsy there are Eraserhead babies that you can purchase.
Nice.
So
it's going to be the official Cinever mascot.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess if y'all did y'all have any other final points before I ask the big question?
Well, are you curious? Does this movie make you want to watch more Lynch, or does it make you just like meh?
Well, okay, so right after finished watching it, I was like, oh my god, yeah, I need to watch every David Lynch film, because I assume everything gets more cohesive after this. But then immediately both of y'all were like, yeah, this is probably his most straightforward, simple.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? This is the simple thing? that he's made. He started out easy. Oh
Yeah,
my
he
God.
started out easy.
I do want to watch all his stuff though, just because he does filmmaking in a way I don't think I've ever seen before. Like the surrealism is superb, and then just the painterly approach to visuals. Like I don't think I've seen anyone actually film in the way he films because he is a painter. Like as soon as this film started, I was like, this dude's a painter, and it's so like interesting to me because there was like one thing it was like certain filmmakers have like whatever they're like passionate about really bleeds into their work, and I don't know, he's the first one that I've seen that is like clearly obsessed with like dreamscape in a visual emotional way. So I think I would like to watch all his stuff. He's definitely on my list. Like he was after Kubrick. I was gonna do Hitchcock, Kubrick, and then Lynch.
I wonder if they'll flip. I wonder if after you see The Shining, you're going to be like, nah, actually, I want to watch Lynch's filmography first before Kubrick. I wonder if you'll like it
That would be
more.
interesting.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I would say Mulholland Drive would be the next one that I would recommend. And then...
But no, Anthony watches them in order only, right?
yeah, that's
unless
true.
unless y'all pick them for like Cineroom watch.
Okay.
yeah.
I'm just thinking
Like
like
Videodrome.
in general. Yeah. Like listeners, let's say, who don't have the same obsession with watching every single movie in order. Yeah. Definitely after this, Mulholland Drive is like, because it's more modern and it's a bigger budget and it's in color. So yeah, it's got maybe some things that, and you know, it's not a silent movie. It's got more of a narrative than this, but it's also more confusing, I think. So it's both. And then after that, if you make it through that and like it, then Inland Empire after that would be a dive into even just more abstract, just of a dream.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
So
Twin
what do
Peaks,
you-
obviously.
What do you think is his like staple achievement?
Twin Peaks.
It's like a tie between everything. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tie between this, Mulholland Drive, and Twin Peaks, I guess.
So you
But Twin
literally
Peaks is
can't
hard
choose
to
between the
say.
three.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't think I would be able to choose one of them.
And then you're Twin Peaks all the way, Helen.
Yeah. It's the best show ever made.
How long is that show?
two seasons and then The Return. So 3 seasons.
And then there's like a movie somewhere, right?
Yeah, there's a movie.
Yeah.
A movie that will ruin your day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
what-
that one
that's what
too. But it's so hard because you have to know the context for that movie to be...
Yeah.
I really
make
want to
any
know
sense.
how Anthony would react to just watching Fire Walk with Me without the show, because it's supposed to be the prequel. It's supposed to be what happens chronologically first in the story.
That's true.
But
we should do an experiment. Yeah. We should make that happen. Yeah.
yeah.
The first
The ne-
recorded viewing of Fire Walk with Me first before Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It'd be
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yep. Y'all can make it happen with the watch list next year. Y'all just
I almost put it on mine this year for that reason, to do
wow.
this experiment on Anthony. But then I thought, what if
Yeah,
it
well.
makes him hate the idea of Twin Peaks because that movie's so repulsive that then he won't watch the show? So I got scared.
See, that's the risk. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to take.
Because there are some repulsive things about that movie. But anyway, don't want to
Yes.
spoil it.
So the final big question, I think I already know David's answer. I'm curious what Helen's answer is going to be, but is Eraserhead canon? Cineberm canon.
Yeah, you already know. Yep. 'Cause- yeah, but I mean,
Am I
because
gonna
of
be-
Lynch's... I don't know. Lynch is so important, obviously, and I just... For a whole genre of film, like art house films, you know, like low-budget indie art house films, this is the best that I've seen that I can think about. And then, yeah, just because it's so influential on so many other directors and creators. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
Am I going to be the tiebreaker? Are you going to say no, Anthony?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So much pressure. Oh no.
I don't know. I think on a rewatch, maybe I'd say yes. And then, like, I don't know. I think Lynch probably has something that I would dig more, that I would think would be more deserving.
Yeah. What is y'all's opinion about multiple films by one filmmaker? Because y'all had that argument about which Nolan film. So, like, if we're going to do a which Lynch film...
Oh, no.
Then I don't want to say this is canon because I want to maybe throw in a different Lynch movie as the canon Lynch movie.
Mm-hmm. I think multiple directors is totally fine. I think Nolan is just a weird case because he kind of makes the same movie over and over again. Mm-hmm. So it's more of an argument of what is his best. But I can see Lynch showing up multiple times. Like, I imagine a bunch of other, like, Kubrick is definitely going to show up multiple times.
Yeah, he's
Hitchcock,
one that's really hard.
Yeah.
You know, Kurosawa. Yeah. I mean, yeah, so there's no rule against multiple directors. It's more, I guess it's just the objective Cineverm canon laws, which is, what are they? I don't know. I forgot.
Yeah.
Let me pull them up.
But yeah, I see the value of this movie in, like, how David's experience of watching it as a teenager and being like, oh my God, I didn't know movies could be like this. This is a seminal experience in my whole being. Like, this movie has that power. But for me, as a person who's kind of had experience with this vibe before, I was a little bit like, yeah, that was a little rough. That was a little student-y. I don't know. But it also was, like, just us talking about it has made me almost want to bump it up to a 9 because the symbolism is so beautiful and so well executed. I don't really like to make decisions based on how influential something is, though. Yeah. And this movie is hard to watch. Like, Colin, my brother, was saying he watched it with my parents, and my mom has no memory of this. And the whole room's reaction was, that was weird. And, like, Colin kind of felt like he wasn't going to watch it again, and he wasn't sure if he liked it. And so, it, like, you could put this on the canon and endorse it, and then someone could watch it and be completely turned off and grossed out by it, and it's not accessible at all. But so, like, it's where... It's the accessibility argument of the canon, like influential versus accessible, and I'm so biased toward this kind of these ideas and this style that, of course, I think it's brilliant, but it makes me nervous to recommend to other people this movie, unless you're like a deep film buff.
Well, yeah, but it's, I mean, that's saying. For the love of cinema, I feel like that's kind of that's my thinking is like, okay, if we're assuming that someone is like, I want to see the best of every genre, every major genre film, or like every important creator in film in the story of film. I want to know like the I want to min-max it. Like, I just want to see the best of those films and or genres and creators. You know, what do I watch? Yeah. So I would definitely say this for Lynch.
Yeah. I'm starting to lean a little more towards it just because, the influence, like now I'm thinking back, like every art, like film art school student film is literally like a wannabe Eraserhead now that I'm thinking about it. Like just abstract images that are provoking, but all those get it wrong because they don't tie to like an emotional anchor where this one does. Even though I wanted more of an anchor, because here are the laws of the canon. A film that redefines genre, technique, style, or artistry. A film that could make you fall in love with the art form. A film that is captivating or lingers in your mind. Undeniably unique. Remarkable in all facets. And influenced other films or film history.
Yeah, this is check. Yeah, it goes in the canon. Yeah, you're okay.
Okay. All right.
Fine.
I'm still a no, but you're a yes?
Yeah, I'm a yes now. Okay. After you read that, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I would just put the caveat, like, this is for surrealist canon want to dive into people. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of crap. Well, I'm curious, like, what other film would you put in this, like, that's like in this category, Helen? Like, can you think of one that would be like that you would recommend over this movie for this genre?
Like maybe some of Gilliam's work. Like maybe.
Oh yeah, because you're a fan of that. Yeah.
I'm a big Gilliam person. Like maybe Brazil.
Yeah.
But it's because that was the first of this type of movie that I saw, was just where I was just like, what is happening to my mind in these visuals, and what even is this story? That was definitely Brazil for me. Saw as a teenager, didn't realize films could be like this. Yeah. I can't really come up with an easy alternative. So
That's a good alternative, though. Yeah, Brazil.
Yeah, I would say Brazil is my go-to because it was my first of this type of thing.
Yeah. So is this peak surrealist cinema for you, David? Like, you think this is kind of a huge landmark in that?
I think so, because I don't know, because the older surrealist movies that I've seen are just so, either they're not full films, they're just 15 minutes long, 20 minutes long, 30 minutes long, so I don't really consider them an actual film, or they don't have a narrative at all, so it's like, they're not really a film at that point.
True.
It's the closest to just pure surrealism, but it feels like it is a full narrative. It's a full film, 90 minutes. So yeah, I do think, I can't think of another one that's so purely surreal that's as good as this. Yeah. So.
Yeah. This is the most surreal film I've seen thus far. I think the only thing that it's not even, I wouldn't even consider it a surreal film, but Under the Skin is probably the closest to this that I've seen, where it doesn't really feel like a narrative, but then there's just weird emotional anxiety happening around everything.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think this is a better surreal film than that, though. But yeah, okay, so that concludes our review of Eraserhead, officially Cineverm canon. That is exciting. I think that's the first 3-way canon approval that we've added on a review. So
yeah.
It's a landmark. It's a landmark moment. So yeah, thank you for listening to this episode of Cineverm, and we would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review or rating with your thoughts or comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and if you could share us with your friends and family, as that helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.